Remember? Responsibilities, and we talked about, subhanAllah, family responsibility, it all looped back into the core message, which was um, to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. At the end of the day, what everyone should be seeking is the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. See, if all of us as Muslims had one common goal, then we wouldn't be so diverse and there wouldn't be an array of thoughts and ideologies as to why someone's doing something. Everyone thinks, no, this is what Islam should be doing, this is what Muslims should be doing. No, Muslims should be doing what needs to be done to make Allah happy. And I'm sure we can find some level of consensus when it comes to that. But in the absence of that ultimate goal, that's the true essence of why we are trying to do what we are doing. That's why we're trying to perfect it. That's why we're trying to improve it. If we don't have that core goal common amongst us, then that is where the ummah will begin to, that's where the ummah will begin to separate, and that's where the ummah will begin to divide, and that division will continue, moving to great heights that we will not be able to understand how to unite it anymore. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Surah Bayyinah, I talked about it last night in the Khatira, وَمَا تَفَرَّقَ الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ إِلَّا مِن بَعْدِ مَا جَاءَتْهُمُ الْبَيِّنَةُ. Understand, this is very scary. The people of the book, Allah's not saying the mushrikeen, Allah's not saying the people of Makkah, Allah's saying the people of the book. They never divided except after the true signs came to them. When the religion was given to them, clear-cut religion was given to them, and what was it? وَمَا أُمِرُوا إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ مُخْلِصِينَ لَهُ الدِّينَ حُنَفَاءَ وَيُقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَيُؤْتُوا الزَّكَاةَ وَذَلِكَ دِينُ الْقَيِّمَةِ. A very simple formula of religion, right? To establish prayer, give it charity. It's very simple, and do it wholeheartedly and completely. But when the word came down, people started using the word as a means of divide. Today in our ummah, we have the same thing happening, where we are using the religion as justification to put someone down or to put someone up. It just baffles me, and I apologize if you may not understand my approach. Being born and raised here in the West and growing up here, I still don't understand how there are 1,001 different ideologies of Islam that continue to prosper in other countries. I was in a Muslim country in one of their major cities. I was just walking into a mosque to pray, and someone stuck their hand out and said to me, no, you can't come here. I said, why? He goes, this is not your mosque. I said, what defines my mosque? He goes, your people mosque. I said, was something's written on me that's my people's mosque? And it was so heartbreaking because I learned after in that city there was over 60 or 70 different sects of masjids in that city. What has happened to Islam? And that's happening here in Dallas also. Different sects, different ideology coming. My question is simple to anyone bringing their ideology here. How different are you from the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Because he didn't do this. He didn't use the word to separate people in the faith. He didn't use the word to put some down and put some up. He did not use the command of Allah or His word to demonize a segment of the ummah and to give credit to another. There's something really, really wrong in our Islam, and I fear for the children here because as they grow up and they see this happening, forget confused, they're going to run. They'll run. And if I was them, I would run also. I would run because this is, in my books, nonsense. Because my deen is very simple. My Quran is one, my Prophet ﷺ is one. Why is there so much division? It baffles me. Yes.
I just want to say it's not only the masajid, it's only the school. So if you are in the Islamic school, that will be different from your public school. That's what like my kids faced when we came from another state. So he said, oh, you're not in the Islamic school? Said, no, you're not like a name, and then said, no, we just like we go to the public school. And how? So they're not your friend. So even the school, like not only even the masjid.
See, I'll tell you why that Islamic school and public school is becoming also another problem. The truth is, we as an ummah and families today really don't want to invest our 101% in raising our families. And we think if we're in a good city where there's a lot of Muslims, there's a lot of activities and a lot of programs and a lot of Islamic schools, my kids will just grow up good. But all I need to do is put them in there, push them to the masjid, go to the khatira, go to the halakah, go to the Islamic school. That's not how children are raised. Islamic school cannot raise anyone's children, just as public school cannot destroy anyone's children. It is us taking this stance that we are absolving ourselves from this responsibility, and others will do it for us. Islamic schools, truth be told, have the same problems that public schools have. It is what it is. The thing is that we have to understand that we should not differentiate from one another based on these small things. Well, my kids go to public school, your kids go to Islamic school, then we're not the same. This is very, very dangerous. And when it's happening and it continues to happen, the first thing we have to do is take the verse of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in which He says, فَإِن تَنَازَعْتُمْ فِي شَيْءٍ. You have a dispute on something. You have a dispute on some issue, on some matter, and it pertains to religion in its core. فَرُدُّوهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِ. Go back to Allah and His Rasul. Answers are in the book. The answers are there. You can take the answers. The question is, are we willing to take the answer? Are we willing to accept the answer? So this type of division is very destructive. And we're talking about division in our country due to politics and stuff. There's division happening within our ummah based on certain lines that certain people are drawing. If the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and every one of his accomplishments turned that credit to Allah, لا إله إلا الله وحده نصر عبده أعز جنده هزم الأحزاب وحده. He always said, Allah, you did it, I did nothing. And then in all his adversities and failures, he put it on himself. Allahumma اغفر لقومي فإنهم لا يعلمون. If something didn't go the way he expected or hoped, he said the fault was mine. And if it went great, it was credit to Allah. If that was my Habib Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I ask people to ask themselves, who is anyone else when they say they can do something and give credit to themselves? When the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam never gave credit to himself. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made that foundation. He sowed the seed of that in his heart and in the hearts of the Sahaba. When it comes to war, for example, they didn't want to go to war. Don't think that our Islam says just go and kill people. Islam allowed the jihad in the context of war to be not only legalized but commanded 14 years into Islam. 14 years, more than halfway. Why? Because there needed to be a war of justice to stop the continuous wars of tyranny. And even then, the Sahabas were told, you need to go. They really didn't want to go. The Quran talks about how the people used to make excuses. What was that? إذا رجعتم إليهم يعتذرون إليكم إذا رجعتم إليهم قل لا تعتذروا لن نؤمن لكم قد نبأنا الله من أخباركم. They come to you and give excuse. They come to you, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. يعتذرون إليكم إذا رجعتم إليهم. When you come back from an expedition or war, they're coming to say, Ya Rasulullah, I was gonna come out, but then I got the flu, or I got sick, or something happened. He goes, don't give me excuses. Allah has informed me of what the truth was. And there was those Sahabas. وَعَلَى الثَّلَاثَةِ الَّذِينَ خُلِّفُوا. There's three specifically that stayed back, had no excuse to stay back. Matter of fact, one of them was an old man, and then the Prophet ﷺ boycotted them. He stayed away from them. The Sahaba distanced themselves from them and passed 40 days until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgave them for staying back. So it wasn't that, Sahaba were told it's part of religion to go kill, but even when they went to war and as their feet were shaking because they had to do something for a greater cause, the Quran says, فَلَمْ تَقْتُلُوهُمْ وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ قَتَلَهُم وَمَا رَمَيْتَ إِذْ رَمَيْتَ وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ رَمَى. When they picked up their swords, they didn't kill anyone. They were picking up their swords and heads were flying off. How? The angels were doing that. مَا رَمَيْتَ إِذْ رَمَيْتَ. When you were shooting the arrows, you were not shooting the arrows. Allah was shooting those arrows. Meaning that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the doer of good. He is the one who brings forth justice. O Muslims who feel that you can restore goodness on this earth, you cannot do it single-handedly or collectively without Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're just a tool. Allah will do it through you. And no one is saying go to war. I'm giving you a scenario here. Islam does not advocate for this stuff. When Islam advocated for it, because there was every single excuse in the book that was executed before failing in order for this to be commanded. But even then, Allah said, He did it, you didn't do it. So where is our Islam when people come and say, I do this, I do that? We are following exactly the footsteps of other religions before us. Isa alayhi salam healed. Isa alayhi salam brought the dead to life. Isa alayhi salam he healed the skin of a leper. He brought the sight of a blind person back. He drew a bat or a bird into the ground and it became a bird. And the Quran says that Isa alayhi salam said, Allah did it. Allah is a doer of this. So one of the ways that our ummah starts to divide is personalities. Number one, there's no personalities in Islam. There's no pope in Islam. There's no hierarchy in Islam. And there will never be. You know why? Because all of you are meant to be leaders. We don't need someone telling us what to do. Allah has given you the deen, learn it and do it for yourself. And then do it collectively as an ummah so that we can support each other on this path towards great heights. That's why they'll never be. So if anyone claims themselves to be the leader of Islam, that's the problem. That's exactly where the problem is. The Prophet ﷺ was the Prophet. Allah told him, you're the Prophet. You're Khatimun Nabiyyin. You're the seal of prophets. You have been sent kafatul linnasi bashiran wa nadhira, for the entire humanity, a warner and a giver of glad tidings. He didn't say, I am. And after his departure, everyone through many different incidents knew that it was Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, and Ali based on the different scenarios and different incidents that occurred where the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ alluded towards this line of succession. But Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu said, okay guys, I'm king now. Did he? No. They took him outside Medina Munawwara. If you go to Masjid Nabi, inshallah, and you go to the back of the masjid, you go to the far right-hand corner where the sisters enter from. They enter from the right and they enter from the left. When you enter from the left, you could go give salam. That's the door to salam. But for the right side, it is not. If you exit from that corner and you move towards a Movenpick Hotel, which is a big block, it's like straight across, a grayish one, and you hit the main road, make a 90-degree turn, you will see a garden there. That garden stands out because there's no gardens there. Like, it's all buildings. And go read what says on that wall. This is the garden where Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh accepted the Khilafah. He didn't want it. He didn't say, I'm something. Anyone who comes up and says, I am someone, you need to run 100 miles the opposite direction. If anyone is there to teach you what the Prophet ﷺ, who he was and what he did and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us, that's what we need to follow. As I said, we all are pipes. We are insignificant because we are under the sink. It is the water that Allah allows to flow through us which makes the water precious, not us. Hidayah will come through us, inshallah. Allah will use us, but never ever assume that it's you or it's because of you. Allah doesn't need us. He showed us in the Quran, He gave Hidayah from a bird to a queen and a people of a land. Allah could do it with a bird. Allah could do it with anyone. He does not need anyone. So if He uses us, we need to be grateful and thankful and always give the credit to who? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's where it ends. So I see the root of these divides and these different fractions coming into our deen and also to the West today is all about personalities. Islam is not about personalities. And if it was, then make the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that personality. So we figured out that last time we discussed about service, sense of responsibility. See, family isn't a burden. You know, as much as it's hard, no one said it was easy, but raising a family, having children is a greatest investment that you could make. Let us not confuse this investment, which has innumerable returns, with the investment that the dunya puts in front of us with a carrot. My good friend in Florida, his wife and him were married, and she was complaining that, you know what, I don't like taking care of the kids and cooking for the kids and stuff, and he was working. So, alhamdulillah, he facilitated what he could to bring her mother, his mother, help out, do things. But to her, it was, I need to do something for my life. This is ruining my life. Now, remember one thing, if akhirah is not our goal, then everything we're doing will look very deplorable to us. Why should I go to the masjid? Why should I pray? Why should I remember Allah? Why should I serve my parents? Why should I even raise children? You know, she wanted to be an air hostess. She said, I'll be an air hostess, I'll work, I'll have honor. He sat and explained to her that if you're gonna go be an air hostess, you have to serve 300 people food on the plane. You know? And this is two kids. But the fights happened and then they separated, they got divorced. She got to do what she wants. Allah gave him, mashallah, wife that's helping taking care of his kids. He was very depressed, he lost his job. Very simple brother, very simple brother. But what hurt me in this scenario was that how adamant people would become to just drop the gifts of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and run the opposite direction. One is you have a job. One is that you have responsibilities outside the home. No one says it's wrong. And I've talked about this multiple times. If the sister of the house has a job and she needs to do a job, she does the job. But remember, the job is a job. The job isn't your life. For a brother and a sister, the job should not become life because there's other responsibilities that have precedence over a job. The job is just a paycheck, but they're not going to raise your family for you and they're not going to give you anything in the bigger picture of things. Yarhamukallah. So you have to look at the bigger picture. But when these things become deplorable, family, spouse, parents, raising children, building a good society, spending time with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then that means the purpose and the ultimate goal is lost. We are pleasing Allah. We talked about it last week. Doesn't matter if people hate us when we are seeking His pleasure. There's a difference between people not liking you because you're seeking Allah's pleasure, and with people disliking you because you're trying to push that on them. You understand? You know, go turn off the TV. Everyone has to pray right now. No, you're at someone's house, time for prayer, you reminded them, and you went off and you did your prayer. If they don't want to pray, you don't become that person who's like the angel of death in their house because you're making their religion look bad. Your good example will remind them, make them feel guilty without shaming them, and allow them to go up and pray one day. But you will not be the one who imposes the pleasure of Allah as a goal. You do it for yourself and show people what beauty there is in seeking the pleasure of Allah, and I promise you the world will run behind you to follow that same goal, inshallah. So, yes?
So how about for the kids? Like, do we?
Kids is a responsibility.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're at someone's house, I'm saying, just say you're at someone's house, or they've invited you, and now you want to become that religious police on them. It's not the right thing. No one says you have to. There's two things. Either we are super strict to impose it, or we let things slide. Oh, just let namaz go. We'll go home and pray. No, my duty is my duty. Doesn't matter if I'm in the airport, airplane, a train station, or anywhere. I'm gonna do my prayer. The thing is that with children, it is important that we from the get-go put that understanding in them. And that's why I said in a class, let's stop praying, let's stop saying prayer, and call it let's talk to Allah. It has a whole different dimension to it. You know, the kids, if they don't understand prayer is speaking to Allah and speaking with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they're not going to be inclined to it. You know, they have to be taught that beauty that you're going to, okay, time out now, let's go and talk to Allah. Let's unload our frustrations and gain some answers from Allah. Let's go talk to Him. Don't make it that robot. And when you create that environment in the house, yes, at the home you can turn off the TV and stop all the things and tell them it's time to pray, or you designate a time. Okay, 5:30 at home, we're gonna pray Azhar together, whatever it is, we're gonna do this. So create that environment until they're mature, and so long they're in your house, you have to allow that rule to be there. Your goal is to make sure the environment in the house is where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is recognized and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is front and center. When they leave our houses, if they leave with this simple understanding that Allah is watching me, 4 words, Allah is watching me. they're good to go. They're good to go. Everything else is secondary. If they understand Allah is watching me, inshallah, with the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they'll do great things. They won't miss their prayer. They'll think twice before they want to indulge in something wrong. Why? Because Allah is watching me, which is the most important part, God consciousness. This is taqwa. Taqwa, that word, uh, remember, many words in Arabic cannot be translated with its due right. You cannot translate it with its due right. And taqwa isn't fearing Allah, like shaking. It's revering Allah, yes, to some extent. It is acknowledging His presence at all time. It is called um, God consciousness. And that's exactly what we have to become. And that's exactly what we have to instill in our families, inshallah. So moving on here, she works to support the religion of Allah. Now that you are upholding the duties uh, for the sake of Allah and you're seeking His pleasure, you will always work to support the religion of Allah. Every one of us can support the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in one way or another, in a very simple way. It doesn't have to be really big things. Sometimes we think, if I do something really big and the people hear about it, that's a sign of Allah's acceptance. Remember, sign of Allah's acceptance is the person standing next to you doesn't even know who you are. You're just a hidden gem. You just do what you have to do. Just keep on moving on your life. You don't have to worry about people. And fear that if people find out about who you are and what you are, then may your intention not be compromised, your sincerity may not be diluted, and that you may lose your rewards in this world from the akhirah. You have to always remember, acceptance isn't something big. Acceptance isn't something that the world talks about. Acceptance is you keep your head down and do what you need to do. So the most important act of worship that the Muslim woman can do is to strive to establish, he says, a rule of Allah on the earth, which kind of sounds very, hard, which means establishing the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on this earth, and that is by following the way of life that He has prescribed. You have to follow it first. We cannot go out and do da'wah and propagate Islam to the world when it isn't in me completely. So that Islam will govern the life of the individual, the family, the community, and the nation. Now this paragraph here could be misconstrued, and it could be used as by Islamophobes to say that your religion is to impose it on a nation and rule nations. Let me explain this to you. If we were to practice our religion and restore that Islam within our family, it will for sure affect our community, and it will also affect our nation. What is that? Modesty. What is that? Good character. What is that? Not to waste food. What is that? To seek good for each other. What is that? Protect one another. What is it? Safe societies. Is there anything wrong with this thus far? Is there anything here that's problematic? No. This is what the essence of our religion is. The essence of our religion is to allow goodness to grow, for opportunity to be there for everyone, and for every human being to reach their potential, and for there to be time, space, and opportunity for that to happen. Everyone should go to sleep full. No one should go to sleep hungry. Everyone should have a roof over their head. Everyone should have the ability to strive and work and make a living. Everyone should have the ability to earn an honest wage. These are basic things that every nation that governs with these ideals have thrived and succeeded. It's a very simple formula. Government and governing a nation is not what's being advocated here, in the sense that we now would topple a government and take over a seat. No. The Prophet ﷺ was appointed like a governor of Medina, but he governed the world with his character. He didn't have to have the title on a door or a plaque on his desk saying his name, "This is who I am." He did it because what he was doing was what the world needed. Is what the world is missing. So you have to agree with me that now is the best time in our life where we can revive and restore those goodnesses, if not on a official level, at least within ourselves and our family and our community, that it will then ricochet and become talk of the town in the government that say, you know what, that town in Texas went 100% renewable energy. Which town was that? It just happened recently. A town here in Texas with a Republican mayor became the first town to go 100% renewable energy. It's not using gas, it's not using coal, and he's being applauded for his good work. He thinks that we should do our part to take care of the environment. Small town did his part. The world is talking about it. Wow, look what you did. If you could do it, we could do it. So when you do something good and you believe in that good and other people start adopting that good and that good trends within the society and the community, of course people say, why not? We should also do that. If we can have a solution for these straws and these plastic bottles, which are killing our oceans and ruining our environment and strangling our fish and killing our turtles, if we could just have that idea in us that, you know what, back home in the days, people used to drink from the same water fountain or same cup would be used and stuff. It was a metal cup, whatever it was, but no one died from that. So what can we use? What can we do to minimize waste on this earth? Small thing. That is a way to govern affairs. Because in the absence of governing these affairs, we have what we have right now, this problem. We have a dead zone in the Pacific Ocean that's the size of Ireland. The whole ocean is dead. The seabed is dead. So for us who says, oh, it's okay, I'm fine, I'm in Plano, I'm worshiping Allah, Allah will ask us, what I entrusted to you, I gave it to you. By the time you came back to me, you left in a worse condition. What did you do? You don't need to have a title in front of your name to do something. You need to have a conscience that knows what everything on this earth is, a gift from Allah, a trust from Allah, and then serve it and use it accordingly. So our goal is to establish goodness, and that goodness goes across racial, religious, and all these different lines, nationalistic lines. This is goodness that any person can relate to. The sincere Muslim woman will feel that her worship is lacking if she does not strive to achieve the purpose for which Allah created men and jinn, namely promoting the supremacy of the authority of Allah on this earth, which is the only way in which mankind can truly worship Allah. I.e., what he's trying to say here is that until the focus for what you do is Allah and only Allah, will never succeed. If it's for name, fame, or recognition, then that has a dead end. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in chapter number 51, verse 56, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. I've created jinn and men that they may worship me. I've only created them so that they may worship me. I.e., the sole purpose of our existence is whatever we do is a service to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He gives a story here of Asma bint Umays, the wife of Ja'far ibn Abi Talib, radiallahu anhuma, hastened to embrace Islam along with her husband in the earliest days of Islam. And what were those days? When Islam began, it was hardships, right? It's not like, okay, if you join AT&T, we'll give you a $100 gift card. If you join this, we'll give you a $200 credit. No. There's no perks of coming in today. Coming into Islam meant suffering and hardship. She accepted Islam at a time when there was hardship and suffering. She migrated with him to Abyssinia in spite of the risks and hardships involved, for the sake of Allah and for the support of his religion. When Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu joked with her and said, "O Habashiyya, i.e. Abyssinian woman, we beat you to Medina," she said, "You have most certainly spoken the truth. You are with the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, feeding the hungry and teaching the ignorant, whilst we were far away in exile. By Allah, I shall go to the Messenger of Allah and tell him that." She came to the Prophet ﷺ and said, "O Messenger of Allah, some men are criticizing us and claiming that we were not amongst the early muhajirin." See, this was so important to them that it would hurt them if someone even joked about it. So the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, but you have two hijras, the migration to the land of Abyssinia whilst we were detained in Mecca, then you migrated to me afterwards. Subhanallah. Asma bint Umays was successful in establishing the virtue of those who had migrated to Abyssinia in the early days of Islam. And she understood from the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ that this distinguished group would have the reward of two hijrah. This was a great honor which was theirs because they had not hesitated to support the Prophet ﷺ, even though it meant leaving behind their families and homeland for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Muslim women were also present at the Treaty of Aqaba, which took place in secret under the cover of darkness and which played such an important role in supporting the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. Amongst the delegation of Ansar were two women of stature and virtue, Nasiba bint Ka'b al-Mazaniya and Mani Asma bint Amr al-Sulaymaniya, the mother of Mu'adh ibn Jabal radiallahu ta'ala anhuma. The latter was present with the Prophet ﷺ at Khaybar, where she performed extremely well. When the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ began his mission calling to pure Tawheed and the abandonment of idol worship, the pagans were very angry with him and plotted to break into his house at night and kill him. The conspirators kept quiet and vowed to let their plot to kill the Prophet ﷺ remain a secret amongst themselves. Nobody ever sensed that there was a plot apart from one Muslim woman who was over 100 years old. Her name was Ruqayya bint Saifi, and she did not let the weakness of old age stop her from hastening to save the life of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. She made her way to him and told him that the people were planning to do. He embarked upon his hijrah straight away, leaving the land that was most high and beloved to him on earth, and leaving his cousin Ali radiallahu anh sleeping in his bed so that the conspirators surrounding his house would think that he was there, and this would keep him from following him and killing him on the road. What a tremendous service this great woman did for Islam and the Muslims. How great was her jihad to save the life of the Prophet ﷺ at the most dangerous time he ever faced. When the Prophet ﷺ and his companion Abu Bakr as-Siddiq left Makkah radiallahu anh, and stayed out of sight in the cave of Hira at the top of Mountain Thawr, it was a young girl who brought them food and water and news of the people who were lying in waiting for them. Her name was Asma bint Abi Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhuma. The brave girl used to cover the great distance between Makkah and Mount Thawr at night. The difficulty and isolation of the journey and the presence of watchful enemies did not deter her. She knew that by saving the life of the Prophet ﷺ and his companion, who was of course her father, helped them to reach their goal of going to Medina. She was supporting the religion of Allah and working towards making His word supreme on earth. So she undertook her difficult mission every day, ever alert and striving to conceal herself as she walked and climbed up the mountain until she had brought whatever supplies and news she was carrying to the Prophet ﷺ and his companion. Then she would go back down to Makkah under cover of darkness. Let me pause here. What is this trying to tell us? That there's never been an excuse due to age, circumstances, or conditions. That even the Muslim woman said, I'm 100 years old. I need to go to a nursing home in Florida. I don't need to go to the Prophet ﷺ. No, she went. There's a thing they call jazba. In Urdu they say jazba. It's that inner drive. What's driving me internally? What's driving me? If there is that love of Allah and His Rasul, I will jump on my feet 3 o'clock in the morning. I will come to the masjid 10:30 at night. We don't make, and ask yourself, when do we make an excuse when it comes to something outside of religious performances that we do when we are in religious performances? For example, it's a hot summer, kids are finishing school, Ramadan is on, and they're tired from fasting. I can't come for Taraweeh tonight. Tired. Taraweeh happens once a year. I'll take your question too, Sister Inshallah. 1 second. Taraweeh will happen once a year, right? Yes, you're tired. Yes, you're exhausted. Let me tell you a secret my teacher told me. He goes, when your body reaches its depletion, okay, then I'll say in Urdu, jab jism choor ho jata hai, वहाँ से रूहानियत शुरू होती है. When your body becomes depleted, your spirituality starts from there. That's why the Prophet doesn't spend the whole day propagating the message. He came home, he just wanted to put his feet in Epsom salt, I'm sure, and get a massage, but he went to sleep and woke up and prayed his tahajjud on the same feet. Because when your body goes down, your soul goes up. You understand this? It's the beauty, that's the transition right there. So what's happening is all day our body is feeling fatigue, but don't feel sympathetic unless you have a health condition. If you don't have a health condition, mashallah, Allah's giving you the strength. Don't use excuses. Oh, all day running around, kids have this, I'm tired, we just had iftar, and I need to go to sleep for Sari. No, I'm going to come because it is in this performance that's goodness for me. But if it was a dinner at a house or a function over the weekend, sometimes the clock is no longer seen. It's like 10, 11, 11:30, 12. The time just keeps going. People seldomly look, oh, we need to get out now, or I have to go to sleep now. Because what happens is when the time is spent in that enjoyment, time goes very fast. And you don't have to even look at the clock. But when the time comes to something which isn't so much enjoyable, um, it may seem like it's dragging. Time isn't dragging. Time has barakah then. Imam Abu Hanifa rahimullah, I think it's about his life when he was a kid. There was only one time he stayed awake at night, hanging out with his cousins or friends and stuff. And he talked about how there was no barakah in that time and how it was a very strange experience that he never wanted to have again. Allah keeps the nights long for those who connect to Him. And Allah keeps the nights short and fast without blessing and barakah for those who want to deprive themselves from connecting to Him. It'll just pass. Time will stretch for those who do good. So remember, these were sacrifices that are the jihad. To stand for what's right, never to say it's raining or it's cold or I don't want to. If health does not prevent, if circumstances do not prevent you, then don't make an excuse a prevention for yourself. Sister, you had a question?
I just wanted to know do you know how old was Asma bin Abu Bakr at that time?
She was, I think 11 or so. She was very young. Yeah, she was a very young girl.
Inspiration for our kids because they have excuses all the time.
Well, those are those missions. She took one of those, you know, undercover missions to go up. It sounds like really fun. Why not? We should teach our children to have fun at the same time, but understand that they're doing something for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We go to feed the people on the streets or do something. Make it like a mission. Make it something that the person who can make the most people smile or something, they get a prize. Kids need motivation, and our deen gives them that motivation. Unfortunately, our culture doesn't. Our culture doesn't give motivation. We start giving motivations to them when we see that they're detaching. So when they're 17, 18, 19, okay, I'll give you an iPhone, just, fast from Ramadan. No, we don't need to motivate them now. Now that motivation should have kicked in and converted itself to the way of life. So the motivation is what motivated her and what motivated the lady who was 100 years old was the same thing. That there are things in life which are more important than me, and that's Allah and His Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And again, non-person centric. If any time the call comes from Allah and His Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to do something, a call comes that we need to feed someone, the call comes that we need to help in the masjid, the call comes we need to serve the deen of Islam, everything drops at that time. Why? Because it's a call for Allah and His Rasul. It's for that I'm going, because that's what I'm living for. If I'm not living for that, I'm living for personalities. Sisters, it's a very dangerous situation. May Allah protect all of us from that, inshallah. Ameen. He says this mission, which even the strongest of men could have failed to achieve, is not all that Asma did to support the Prophet ﷺ and Islam. She was tested severely and proved to be as solid as a rock on the day when the mushrikeen surrounded her and asked her about her father. Where's your father? She denied knowing anything, and they placed severe pressure on her, so much so that Abu Jahl struck her a blow that sent her earring flying from her ear. But this did not weaken her resolve or her determination to keep her secret hidden. She kept up her mission of taking food and news to Prophet ﷺ and his companion until the time came for them to leave the cave and head for Medina. She had already brought them provisions for the journey, but when she checked the cloth in which they were wrapped, she found that she had nothing with which to tie it apart from her own girdle. She told her father, who told her to tear it into two and use one piece to tie the water skins and the other to tie the cloth holding down the food. Hence, Asma became known as that Natqain. She had the two girdles. It was the attitude of the early Muslim women to support the religion of Allah and join forces of da'wah because their hearts were filled with strong, vibrant faith. They could not bear to stay in the land, the land of the disbelievers, far from the center of Islam. So they migrated with their husbands if they were married, and their hijrah, like that of the men, was in obedience of Allah and in support of His religion. Their faith was like that of the men, and their sacrifices, and they made sacrifices just as the men did. So what we're learning here is there was no distinction between what the sisters could do and what the men will do. No, the sisters did exactly what the men did when it came to the call for Allah without showing any sign of reservation, weakness, or lack of interest. They did it because this deen is for all of us. And they did it wholeheartedly because they knew they needed to do it. They needed to do it because what they were pursuing was the one and the same thing, and that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's happiness. And think about this. If we got a call today that, you or your husband or someone in the family has a job transfer and they need to leave in the next week. You have to get to Dubai, Abu Dhabi. You got a big job offer. What would we do? Within 5 days, forget selling the house. We'll put the house up for rent. We'll put all the stuff in the storage, and we're running. Yes? No one would dare tell the job, listen, my kids are in school right now. You need to wait till June. Ramadan is there. After my Eid break, I'll think about it in July. What will they say to you? Bye. Right? It's an opportunity, you run. We know individually what sacrifices we make for the dunya. But when it comes for Allah, when's the last time I said, I'm just going to move because of the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? That opportunity is there for me to better my religion, I'm going to move for that purpose. In the same haste fashion that I would do for the dunya. The doctor, where we used to live on the corner of the street, there was a doctor's office, Dr. Brignoni, and very big office, very big facility, plastic surgeon, and did all these other things. Overnight he ran. He got an offer in Dubai, plastic surgery. He ran. He left his office. I was there just recently, and the office has now changed into many smaller offices because it was a very big facility. But he just ran. Why? It's an opportunity. Who cares about your car? Who cares about the house? Who cares? The same house that you look at and say, my investment, my future now is, you don't despise it. You're just ready to give it up. You're ready to give up. Why? Because now there's something, a new future awaits. And you're dreaming while you're packing, or while you're selling, or while you're giving away. Oh, the beach in Jumeirah. Oh, Burj Khalifa. I'm going to be good. I'm not. Huh? But it's still the dunya. When we make our sacrifices, dream about Jannah. Dream about the day that Allah will call you every Friday for Jummah. And there's going to be a bazaar. And people are just going to sit and eat. And we're going to talk and converse. And we'll talk about this world and these days and these sittings and these sessions and learning. And it's just going to be a conversation. Dream about Jannah when you make your sacrifices. Teach your children to dream about Jannah. We need to start dreaming about what is real. And stop mesmerizing over what the Prophet ﷺ said is a mirage. And what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said is a mirage. And what Allah Himself cursed. He made it and He cursed it. I.e. to strike the balance. Just because I made it, don't say that because of my name and my hands being part of this making, that you get so indulged into it. I made it and it's a dunya mal'oonun wa mal'oonun ma fiha. This earth is cursed. Whatever's in it is cursed. The Prophet ﷺ is telling us this. Allah has allowed him to tell us this. Why? Because it's their balance it. The balance is use it, don't get abused by it. إِلَّا ذِكْرَ اللَّهِ وَمَا وَالَاهُ. Except for the remembrance of Allah and anything that comes in line with that, this is not cursed. So, yes, we do make sacrifices. Everyone makes sacrifice. No one can say they don't make sacrifice. Everyone makes a sacrifice. Can I just put 10% of my worldly sacrifices for the sake of my Allah? Just 10%. Just one Ramadan, uh, one Hajj, one day coming to the masjid every day, 1 hour, 2 hours, whatever it is. This is my sacrifice. And in that, I'm not just going to come and do the norm. I'm going to come and serve. If there's a need in the moment, I'm going to say, Labaik, I'm here. I want to help. Why? Because I'm helping the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is, mashallah, just beautiful. It's just really good that what's being told to us, that from the youngest to the eldest, every single one of them did it. They left it. You know what happened to Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's own daughters? They were also divorced. They left their homes. They ran without telling their families. What didn't happen? No one went to Zillow.com and said, okay, let's put this house up for sale. No, they left. They left their businesses. They left their merchandises in those businesses with those door closed, and they walked off. Think about that. Because they were leaving the world for Jannah and Medina. And they went to a worse situation in Medina. Medina was worse than Mecca. It was Yathrib. We shouldn't say Medina was worse. Yathrib was worse. Aisha radiallahu anha, what did she say? That Yathrib was a filthy, dirty place. It was a plague-infested land. That's where the Prophet's father passed away. There was disease. And you're taking us to a land of disease? We'd rather die here with our families killing us. No, I'm not taking you to Yathrib. I'm taking you to Jannah. Our whole life, we're moving towards Jannah. So that should be the motivational factor as we please Allah and we see what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will express His pleasure to us with. We're just keep on moving. We're rolling with the punches. Everything else is secondary. Yeah, when we see Yathrib as what Yathrib is, we'll make it into a Medina. And that's what they did. They made Medina Munawwara to the cleanest city on earth. Why? Because that's exactly what your Jannah is about. As you are going to Jannah, every step you make in your life, you're making that place into Jannah. That's how we are justifying and showing to Allah that we want what He is giving to us. This deep faith is what motivated Kulthum bint Uqba ibn Abi Mu'ayt to migrate to Medina alone. I don't think we understand the traveling of that time. Now there's roads and highways and there's train now, but there's a old Medina road which goes through Badr. It's still 2 lanes, one this way, one this way. They say it kind of crisscrosses around where the Prophet ﷺ migrated. And there's a museum in Medina Munawwara that shows you the exact way that the Prophet ﷺ migrated and how the Sahaba migrated. The Sahaba went straight up. The Prophet ﷺ went south, then he went west, then he crisscrossed to east, went up north, crisscrossed to west, because he didn't want to be on a conventional path where the people could have saw him or noticed him, because he needed to get home safely. So he used this strategy of crisscrossing. But the rest of them went. Even if you think about it, there are places in the road where there are these monkeys. They are the most vicious monkeys. I don't know what they are. They're now on top of Jabal Nur, where the Hira is. Subhanallah, I've seen it myself. They took a person's bag. They took the bag, they took things out, they put some things on the side. I saw this, I'm just watching this thing. The guy opens up the water, he drinks the whole thing, he throws a bottle, he grabs stuff and he runs. Imagine these things, these monkeys and whatever else in the desert. There's snakes, there's scorpions. The deserts are, Saudi Arabia has the most densest stones on earth. For those who know about this, I had a brother from Houston came Hajj with me many years ago, and he explained to me as he worked for Exxon, he was telling me how the stone here is so hard. It's like the 10 out of 10, the hardest stones. And when those things get hot, like if you stepped on the haram tile, don't think marble is cold. Marble is also a stone, it gets hot. There's a cooling system underneath the marble. But if you step on a stone, you could literally bake your foot on these things. They never wore Skechers and walked. They walked. And there was like a traditional path and there's a side road. If you just sit in the bus and go from Mecca to Medina, Medina to Mecca, even with these highways, just look to your left and right and think the Prophet ﷺ spent 10 days, the Sahaba spent weeks, maybe 2 weeks, walking this path. What was it? It wasn't easy. There was no AC, there was no umbrellas, there was no UV protection. They did it because they're walking to Jannah. And Kulthum is walking alone. She's walking alone. And at the time of Treaty of Hudaybiyah, when the Prophet ﷺ had promised to return to the mushrikeen, anyone who came to him to embrace Islam, they made a treaty. The Prophet ﷺ had already kept his promise and sent 2 men back. When Kulthum reached Medina, she said to the Prophet ﷺ, I have fled to you with my religion, so protect me and do not send me back to them, for they will punish me and torture me. And I do not have the patience and fortitude to endure that. I am merely a woman, and you know the weakness of a woman. I see that you have already sent 2 men back. The Prophet ﷺ said, Allah has cancelled this treaty with regards to women. The Prophet ﷺ was a man of his word. The deal was made in Hudaybiyah. Any one of our people come to you as believers, you better send them back. He signed off on that. Now we could stand here and discuss the fiqh and the legality behind it. Where in the Quran was this written? The Quran says, "Awfu bil uqud," fulfill your promises. Fulfill the trust of the promise. If you put your signature, you're gonna do that. 2 men were sent back. They came running. Ya Rasulullah, we're here with you. He goes, off you go. You have to go back because we agreed on this. Who did you agree with? Muslims? You know, people say, oh, I don't want to pay taxes. Why? This is kafirin. Astaghfirullah. You made a covenant of oath of allegiance to this nation. You have to pay your taxes. You will not cheat the system. You will not harm the system. Why? Because this is your home. Medina wasn't even their home. Makkah was their home. They lost Makkah already. Medina was trying to adopt them. Yathrib was trying to adopt them. And here he made a treaty with the people due to which he ran from Makkah. Was if someone comes to you from us, you send them back. And if someone comes to us from you, we will never return them back. Unfair, unjust, impossible to accept. But he signed it because that was a treaty. But when she made this hijrah and she made this sacrifice, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cancelled that this treaty will not be in regards to the women folk. It was her sacrifice that opened the doors of this to be allowed. We don't understand that the sacrifices of the sisters is what brought down so much of this deen to us, an explanation to us, and clarity for us. The women folk, as I said on Saturday, every single masjid in North America, women have not contributed or participated. They have sacrificed everything for. So every single masjid in North America has the foundation of our women folk. And we cannot say otherwise. It is true. Because nowhere I have seen where a man would say, here's my check, blank check, write what you want and take it. But I have seen sisters from young age that took off their jewelry and said, this is for the masjid, this is for Allah because it's for something better. Who told them to do that? They did it from their heart. Why? Because their faith drove them to do that. Their pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala drove them to do that. And Jannah was in front of their eyes, and that's why they did that. So when the sisters make that sacrifice without this cultural perception that this religion is for men only and women just sit at home, these women did what needed to be done at the time when everyone was doing it. They were not actively out, but when the need was there, the call was there, they were out with everyone. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knew the faith of Kulthum bint Uqba ibn Abi Mu'ayt and other muhajir women who had migrated solely out of the love of Allah and His Messenger and Islam. He revealed the Quran concerning them, abolished the treaty between the Prophet ﷺ and the mushrikeen in case of the women only, and forbid their being sent back to the mushrikeen once the Prophet ﷺ had tested them and ensured that they had not migrated for the sake of a husband or wealth or some other worldly purpose, right? The verse is in the Quran. فَامْتَحِنُوهُنَّ اللَّهُ أَعْلَمُ بِإِيمَانِهِنَّ. When the muhajirat come to you, test them, Allah knows about their faith. So the Prophet ﷺ would test them. Once they would succeed in that test, they would be there. And they had indeed migrated for the sake of Allah and His Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Yeah, the verse is right there. Sorry, verse number 10 of chapter number 60. O you who believe, when there comes to you believing women or refugees, examine and test them. Allah knows best as to their faith. If you ascertain that they are believers, then send them not back to the unbelievers. The kuffar, la hunna hillun lahum, وَلَا هُمْ يُحِلُّونَ لَهُنْ. They are not lawful wives for the unbelievers, nor are the unbelievers lawful husbands for them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reading the verse in the Quran because of their sacrifices. SubhanAllah, we have our sisters of Islam in different countries running, and wherever they're running to, they're being exploited. Is that what our religion's about? It is such a shame what's happening in the Muslim world today. It's a shame. It's such a shame. Where is Islam and where is the Muslim? So I always say, look at Islam, don't look at the Muslim. Unfortunate reality. Because anyone could put the label of Muslim on their shoulder, but our Islam gave safe haven, protection, security, promised goodness, helped reestablish them on their feet. This is what Islam did. I don't know where we went from the Khadija and Asma and Aisha radiallahu anhunna to where we are today. I just don't know. One of those various women were amongst the first people to support Islam and the Prophet ﷺ was al-Fadl bint al-Harith Lubaba, the full sister of the Prophet ﷺ's wife Maymuna. She was the second woman to embrace Islam. She became Muslim after Khadija radiallahu anha. She was a source of great support and consolation for the Prophet ﷺ. Lubaba was the wife of the Prophet ﷺ's paternal uncle Abbas ibn Abdul Muttalib and was diametrically opposed to Jamil bint Harb, the wife of his other paternal uncle Abu Lahab, who the Quran described as a carrier of firewood, who would have a twisted rope of palm leaf fiber around his neck. Think about it. If the day the Prophet ﷺ propagated the message and his uncle said, "Tabbal laka sa'ir al-yawm," he may be cursed. Is this what you gathered us for, this nonsense? And the verse of the Quran came right down. Tabbat yada abi lahabi wa tab. You dare mess with the Prophet? You want to know your name? I'll make sure your name is known till the day of judgment. Khadija's name is not in the Quran. Abu Lahab's name is in the Quran. It's interesting. It teaches me that just because your name may be affiliated with something good doesn't mean that you are good. The Quran called out Fir'aun. Inna Fir'auna wa Hamana wa Qaruna. Allah's talking about them. Their names are being said. Allah didn't say Abu Bakr Siddiq. Allah did not say Umar ibn Khattab. Allah didn't say their names, but Allah elevated their ranks. And the names who Allah took, a lot of them, outside the prophets of course, were the people Allah wanted to make for us the example of disgrace. Allah can use His word to disgrace you also. And that's exactly what Allah did with Abu Lahab. Till the day of judgment, people will know the name of Abu Lahab, that he merely stuck his hand in front of the Prophet ﷺ and said, "What is wrong with you?" And Allah said, "Your hand is cursed. And your wife will be carrying the wood of fire that will be burning you." So if Allah comes to the safety and protection of anyone, of the Prophet ﷺ, when he's doing the work of Allah, are you saying to me that Allah will never come to my aid? Are you saying Allah will never help us? Think about it. We've never seen that help come from Allah because we may be fearing what people may say to us or do to us because we believe in Allah. If you believe in Allah, know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with you. No one can harm you. They could try their best. And they will. Allah will not harm you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told the Prophet ﷺ, let go of the people. I'm there for you. That was it. He didn't need security. He didn't need Secret Service. He didn't need an entourage of people. It's him and Allah. And he was a target walking. He had that target on him so big. People wanted to kill him. But when they came with that venomous determination, their hearts melted like butter. Because when they saw the Prophet ﷺ, they felt his resolve and determination. They felt the serenity of Islam coming from him. They had to accept it. That's how Islam spread. That your body speaks more than your tongue. Today, Islam is about who could speak the best. Whose speech I could turn on YouTube and listen and say, MashaAllah, 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 MashaAllah. And I go do what I want to do. No. There are people who cannot speak. I was telling our MCs that night, MashaAllah, two youngsters who did a phenomenal job. I said to her that pray to Rakah and thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for allowing you to speak and giving you this gift, because Musa alayhi salam didn't have that gift. According to an Israeli narration, as we say in tafsir, Israeli riwayat, that Musa alayhi salam had touched the fire when Pharaoh had tested him between the dime and the fire. Ye bacha, is this the kid who's going to come and die? So his hand was going for the shiny thing, and Jibreel alayhi salam pushed his hand and he touched the fire and he put it into his mouth because it burnt him, and it kind of affected his speech. So even when he spoke, he put like a pebble on his tongue to stabilize his tongue to speech. And Allah selected him. Why didn't Allah select Harun? Harun alayhi salam had the tongue. He knew how to speak. Allah could have selected the most eloquent people to be prophets. No, learn something, sisters and brothers. This goes for the ones who are listening. A lot of brothers watch this. Eloquent tongue isn't the key factor for propagation of Islam. Allah said, I'm sending you as a prophet to Pharaoh. You're sending me to death. Literally, you're saying go back and get killed by the person who's after you. What they said, oh, Allah sent my brother with me. Allah said, I'll send the brother with you. That's fine. But you're going to speak to him. Because it's what's in here that will talk. It's not what's here that will talk. Our deen today has become this and this. The bigger the brain, the bigger the tongue. No. Some Sahabas, deformed, unable to talk, but they would walk and the world would just bow and listen to them. We have to be the people the word turns to us and says, the world turns when you walk and says, that's a person. They can feel the angels walking with you. They can feel that serenity of Islam emitting from you. That's the feeling you need to walk with. That's the Islam you need to walk with. Everywhere you go, your mere presence is not just dawah, but it is a symbol of what a life of tranquility and beauty is about. That's what our lives are about. So, we've lost so much. Islam is following hazwa na'li bin na'l. We are following the nations and the people before us. We had them to be an example to us of good practices and failures, so we could do the good and prevent from the wrongs. They are all part of us and we are part of them. We are part of the people of the book. We are the people of one religion. But they went off in certain places, and it seems that we are catching up very fast to them. It may be soon that the religions that were 500 to thousands of years before us, we may surpass them in our ignorance. It's very scary. Everything that happened in previous nations will happen collectively in this nation. The question is, where are the people that will uphold that goodness? I was talking to a brother. I was having not like an argument, but a hard discussion with a person who was saying that the Prophet ﷺ said there'd be like 70-something firqa in Islam, and we are the truth and you are not the truth. I'm like, what means the truth? What can you define that truth? The one who believes in Allah and His Prophet ﷺ, I said, so where am I saying I'm not? So after that discussion, which I said is not worth having, one of my friends told me something very nice. He said, did you ever think that the Prophet ﷺ said that there will be 72 sects? Maybe it's going to be 71 people and the rest of the people will be part of the one. It doesn't have to be large groups, right? It's up to us how we want to follow. Maybe 99.99% are following the good and that 0.01% is not. But we should not use text to write off each other. We should not use a religion to put down one another. And that's exactly what's happening, because the religion is being stuck in our heads and spoken by our tongues, when the religion was given to the heart of the Prophet ﷺ, and it emitted from his actions. I'll finish one more part, inshallah, here. Where did we go? Kulthum, we discussed Kulthum, right? The treaty was thing. Virgin Fadl. Lubaba was the wife, we talked about that. Lubaba, her husband Abbas, and their sons used to conceal their Islam. So Abu Lahab was thing, right? We talked because of her determination. Why would she be carrying the firewood? Because Abu Lahab's wife, because of her determination to harm the Prophet ﷺ. Whilst Lubaba was the first to come to his support and to make sacrifices to support his religion during the most testing days of the early Muslims faced. Lubaba, her husband Abbas, and their sons used to conceal their Islam in obedience to the Prophet ﷺ's command and in accordance with a well thought out plan. He told them, you're going to conceal your faith, you conceal your faith, and they concealed their faith. I think it was Ali radiallahu ta'ala, Umar ibn Khattab, when he embraced Islam, he was the first one to break the ice. He's the one who went into Kaaba and said, I'm a Muslim. You got beef, you come now. And they were like, no, we're good, Umar. Because he's the first one who said with that courage. But the Prophet ﷺ's plan was, look, we're in tough times right now. Let's keep it under wraps. Let's not talk about it. Thus they were able to learn the secrets of the mushrikeen and pass them on to the Prophet ﷺ. When the battle of Badr was waged between the Muslims and the mushrikeen, the news came of the defeat of Quraysh. Fadl urged her sons and her freed slave Abu Rafi to conceal their joy at this defeat, because she feared the mushrikeen, especially Abu Lubaba, who was filled with hatred towards Muhammad ﷺ, his companions, and his message, might do some harm to them. I'm going to finish the story if we have a few minutes, right? Interestingly, so when Pakistan used to play India in cricket, and I was in India at that time, and so they were listening to it on the radio, and whenever Pakistan would hit a six or something, in my barber, I was with my friend, he's my friend, Rais, he's like, yes, but he wouldn't say loud because you can't support Pakistan in India. It doesn't look right. This is a rivalry that in cricket is very passionate, but you could see kind of, that's why I was smiling. It reminded me of this, that, you had to even conceal your emotions because the people around you may misinterpret who you are and what you're doing and harm you. So she said to her son and everyone, don't conceal, don't expose your happiness. But her freed slave, Abu Rafi, was not safe from the wrath of Abu Lahab. When he expressed his joy at the Muslims' victory, Abu Lahab was enraged and vented his fury on the poor man, beating him in the presence of Fadl. At that point, Fadl became like a fierce lioness and attacked him, shouting, "You pick on him." She attacked him, shouting, "You pick on him when his master is absent." She struck him with one of the wooden pillars of the house and dealt him a fatal blow to the head. Abu Lahab did not live more than 7 days after that. So she saw injustice being perpetrated on the slave, who was then freed, of course, and she said, this is wrong. What motivated her to defend him was the fact that she knew through the light of Islam what is right and what is wrong. Islam as a religion reinforced values, brought back what was good and clarified it as light as day, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also clarified what was wrong. So she did not sit back when she saw wrong being done. What motivates me to get up and do something when the call is there? Or what am I lacking that holds me back from doing what needs to be done? Now, no one's saying go and killing someone. She didn't kill him. She defended him. Unfortunately, the way she hit him, Abu Lahab ultimately died because of that blow. But she said, this is wrong. If we remain silent, no one is saying to advocate for violence. We have a law, we have a structure in this country, and you have the right to oppose something or voice your opinion in a lawful manner. If there is a petition going to our congressmen and women about the atrocities happening to the Uyghur Muslims in China, I'm like, you know what? Nah, I could delete that email. I'm not interested. Is this your signature? Is it going to harm you? Is someone going to come from China and hurt you? No, it's a signature saying there's enough people in your constituents and followers are saying you need to talk about this. That's all. That's all we're doing. But no, it's not important. Burma, there's still something about Burma. There's 2 bills right now. I don't need to. Why am I lacking the motivation and that resolve to stand up for what's right? I see a child being bullied or something happening or 2 sisters fighting or plotting against a sister, whatever the case may be. How come I cannot intervene and say, no, this is wrong, this has to stop? When they were spying on the mushrikeen, they were not actively spying, like, the goggles, what are they doing? No, when they knew something was wrong, they told the Prophet ﷺ, this wrong is happening. That's why the 100-year-old lady went and told the Prophet ﷺ this is going to happen, because she knew it was wrong. But if I know that something's going to happen to a fellow Muslim brother, and I fail to even give him a heads up and tell him, hey, this might happen to you, just leave right now, that means I am allowing the perpetrator to do their evil on that person. This is exactly the problem in Ummah. If I know something is wrong, don't balance what will people think of me if they found out I said it. If they come to say to him, what would you think of me if I knew and it was done to you and I said nothing to you? What's happening within the Muslim community is some real nasty politics. My teacher was visiting from Orlando over the weekend. We had to go meet him on the morning. He was telling me the things that are happening right now in the Muslim community. How women are setting up other women in bad situations and they're getting divorced. And this is all some type of conspiracy going on to break homes. If you knew about it, why didn't you speak up against it? The Quran is such a light that when something wrong is happening, you cannot sit straight. You have to get up and do something which is legal, lawful, within the confinements of the law, not doing something wrong. So this is exactly when she was concealing her Islam. Abu Rafi said the Muslims won, and Abu Lahab is beating him. She didn't sit back and say, okay, now I'm just going to let that happen or turn my face. She went and attacked him. She goes, how dare you beat on this person? She put force with force because force was already perpetrated on him. So the thing is that if we know of wrong, we have 3 obligations. Number 1 is to help the oppressor not to do it. Help the oppressed from being transgressed upon. And third thing is to be the advocate for what's right in these situations. If we are not doing this, then where is my Islam and where is my Iman? Finish off with this page and we'll be done. Fadl broke her separation from her husband Abbas with patience for the sake of Allah and in support of his religion. When the Prophet ﷺ issued a command that Abbas should stay in Makkah and she should migrate to Medina, their separation was a lengthy and difficult one. But Fadl bore it patiently, hoping for reward and seeking help from Allah through prayer and fasting, waiting for her beloved husband to finish what he had to do in Makkah and come to Medina. As it turned out, he was one of the last to migrate to Medina. The only thing that helped to ease the pain of this separation was seeing her eldest son Abdullah accompanying the Prophet ﷺ daily and drinking deeply from the pure wellspring of Islam. It never occurred to her that history was preparing her to enter its widest gate, for she was to be the greatest mother and the great authority of Islamic teaching and the interpretation of the Quran. Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala, may Allah be pleased with both of them. If you look at tafsir, a lot of tafsir and a lot of interpretation comes from Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala. We'll stop there because there's another story of another sister now coming, another Sahabiya. But I hope you all and I get the gist that, Islam is supposed to drive us. Islam is supposed to motivate us. Islam is supposed to be that thing that we seek its call. When Islam calls for something, a need is there to help in any way or shape. I am also a part of that. I am a part of building that legacy of my akhirah because my akhirah is as important as anyone else's akhirah. It's not like the men will go Jannah and then the women will follow. No, there's Jannah for every person. Every person. I'm striving for my Jannah just like anyone else is striving for their Jannah. Seeking the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, doing what's right, seeing Jannah as we move forward in our struggles and striving, because we don't know what the bigger picture is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The sufferings of today will be the miracles of tomorrow. We just don't know it. We can't be short-sighted in seeing these things. We just have to allow time to play out what Allah has presented so that we can see the opposite end, which is the result that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prepared. Let's not fight situations, nor should we succumb to situations. We should continue doing good, regardless if the situation is there or not, hoping for the best from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and hoping for His pleasure and His happiness. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide all of us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us in our shortcomings. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to strengthen our faith and resolve in Him and to pursue His happiness and to gain paradise both in this world and in the akhirah. Ameen ya Rabbal Alamin.